Daniel Tulian Meldanine, and thank you once again for joining me. My name is Lord Aramil, and today we will be talking about mentor figures and patron figures to go along with parties in D&D. Now, today is 12/12/2020, so I'm feeling pretty good about things. Not only are we at the end of 2020, but we are I feel like it's a very auspicious day. So, who knows? Time may yet prove me right or wrong. Now, mentors and patron figures I find can be very potent methods of moving the story along. Now, I'll be referencing, Overly Sarcastic Productions, or OSP, another YouTuber, well, a duo of YouTubers, specifically far more popular than myself, because there is a trope talk on mentor figures that they've done, February of this year. It feels like it was much longer ago than that, but that's just 2020. So, what is a mentor? Well, I guess I should say, what is a mentor and or a patron in regards to D&D? Because I think we all can understand the rough idea of a mentor or even a patron IRL. So these are people who guide or in some way allow an adventure to progress. Now, not every campaign will have a mentor or patron figure. Some it wouldn't make much sense, but I feel like overall, a patron or mentor figure is a very good narrative piece. Some would like to have a mentor or patron figure that is secretly evil or whatever. And actually, I should just go through the list that OSP made for mentors. So you've got the classic mentor, also known as the Obi-Wan. So somebody who's wise and who will guide the characters along on the beginning stages. You've got the scary badass mentor, the reluctant mentor, the wacky trickster mentor, and the evil mentor, either secretly or blatantly. So there we have a really good start to what we have. Wow, I need more caffeine. We have a good start to mentors and, by extension, patron figures. The way I draw the line is mentors will actively teach the players, whereas patrons more allow a story to progress, usually by being some sort of financial backer or maybe, well, we'll go with one of my campaigns, for example, all right, because I know it and it works. So the player characters are part of a flotilla of airships, which gives it this ability to act like away teams on Star Trek, basically. They have these home ships, which is part of a larger fleet that usually sticks together. It could only almost be considered a single ship, but if the player characters have to go on an extended mission with only their home ship, that's also possible. So, but the point is that the patron figure, you could argue that there are two. A minor patron figure would be the captain of their personal ship, Captain Shane, but I haven't really given him a lot of personality, especially as the characters have reached higher levels. He showed up a few times, mainly when the characters were low level and kind of under the radar, but as often as not, the player characters now, if they are going to be dealing with someone in authority aboard the flotilla, they'll be talking to Commander Taronal himself. Admiral? Either way, take your pick. So Taronal is a patron figure. He is the one in charge of the whole thing, and thus it is through him that the players are allowed, technically, to be part of this flotilla. but he doesn't like teach them anything really. He provides the means by which the adventures progress, including financial backing. He pays them; they are salaried employees effectively, but along with whatever else they get during the course of their adventures. But you get the idea. The Tronal isn't taking one or two of the players under his wing and just saying, okay, well, this is how you cast Fireball, little Timmy. No. Tronal's got other things he's working on. Whereas in my Battle for Waterdeep campaign, which I've mentioned before, we had a patron who kind of became a mentor a little bit, Kelvin Blackstaff, who was a very reluctant mentor. It should be noted, he was not nearly as interested in the player characters at the beginning. He was kind of a little bit annoyed that he had to deal with the player characters, actually, because through the course of the campaign, one of the characters, specifically the wizard, of course, managed to accidentally connect with this illithid, not hive mind, but more like network, okay? And because he was able to tap into this, he then became important for... and this is like a third level character, all right? But he suddenly he has, Kelvin and Blackstaff and other figures who are just kind of turning and looking down like he was a small but very loud rodent on the table. Just like, oh, you now have the attention of far more powerful figures than you ever could have hoped for. This is not necessarily a good thing, but because he could tap into this network and none of these more powerful figures were certain, what all that entailed, he, and by extension the rest of the party, suddenly became important because, Elminster's not going to mess around with something that he doesn't understand on the off chance that it will grant him access to an illithidic network, just in case it goes both ways. You get the idea. But Kelvin Blackstaff then, slowly warmed to the idea of having these guys, working through them and with them, especially as they got higher and higher level. Over the course of a couple months in game, we went from like level 3 to, I think we ended at level 11, give or take. So eventually, and one of the final bits was Kelvin finally accepting Zephyr the Wizard as an apprentice at like level 11. So it's like, okay, fine, you've graduated from the basics, I'll actually teach you now. And even before then, there was a little bit like, okay, here, look, you're going into this, you'll want this spell. Here, copy it from one of my books. And so you could see a bit of mentorship. There were a few times when he actually explained things, and he helped to bring the characters into this kind of wider world. Now, one thing that I have found, because I've tried to use mentor figures before, to varying degrees of success, what a lot of player characters, well, specifically, what a lot of players react to are powerful figures that are at the same time kind of majestic, I think is the best way to really sell that idea. Like they have to feel like even if I were twice my level, I could not take on this guy. And to that end, I'm going to read you a quick passage from Magic of Faerun, which is probably my favorite bit of dialogue, and it really shaped how I portrayed Kelvin Blackstaff. I'm gonna get a drink of water real quick. Hail hydrate. No. Magic. Yes, I know you think you know what it is and how it works. You don't. You're an ignorant fool, just like all the others. You think that magic is a tool, like a hammer, something that you pick up when you need it, swing it around for a while, and put down again when you're done with it. Not so. Magic is a living thing, part of the Lady of Mysteries, a deity to whom you only pay lip service. You can't just grab onto her when you need magic, squeeze the power out of her, and discard her when you're done. That sort of treatment comes back to you. There's a reason why most old mages are obsessed or are insane. Mystra punishes them for their lack of respect. No, you have to study her, learn how she works, learn what she likes, and understand why she does what she does. While a tool has no sentience, magic has a woman's mind and a conscience behind it. A woman who, just 12 years ago, was a living and breathing person you could run into on the street. I did once, down in the city, although I had no idea what she was to become. So yes, magic has a conscience. Mystra knows whether your spell is good or evil, and knows what you're doing with it. She may not approve. When she disapproves, you'll know it. She can slam the doors upon your ability to use magic, and not open them again until she's decided you're worthy. Then there are the other deities of magic, Azuth, Savras, the lich deity Velishrum, Mistress Shar, and the deities of magic in far-off lands and of other races. Each of them has a hand in magic as well. I'm sure you consider yourself smarter than most, but that Sharan dagger you carry that dulls your mind every day is a legacy of the dark sister of Mistra's magic, and its taint can be detected, although with difficulty. And you have no idea why. I suppose you think it's cursed, and its powers outweigh its costs. So much more to it exists that you do not see. But do not feel too bad. I have seen and spoken with mages all over this world who have never bothered to understand the forces they manipulate every day. Thayan evokers like yourself, and mystic wanderers of Bashaba, nomadic spelldancers, and those who count themselves among the ranks of my ex-allies, the Harpers. I've met Hauruan alchemists, Aglarondan sorcerers, and even the rare practitioners of spellfire. All these mages could do so much more if they studied the methods of magic rather than just its utility. Hundreds of new spells leap to mind, as do many magic items, all inspired by a deeper knowledge of the art. Capitalize. But you are too busy mastering Fireball, and receiving the gentle admonishments of your red wizard masters, and planning for the day when you would break into my house. If only you had learned all of this years ago, my little Thayan spell thief, then you wouldn't be where you are today. Bound in my spell that leaves you utterly immobile, you might have known how to bypass a spell engine, or how to recognize a Kira from a common gemstone, or talk your way past a spectator, or spot any of the other wards and traps I have placed around Blackstaff Tower. And I wouldn't have to slay you for your folly. I get chills reading that, honestly. And I once shared this with one of the players in that campaign, albeit much later, and she was shaken. She was like, "Oh, shit!" And that's what you need to have in, especially reluctant mentors or scary badass mentors. That is the vibe you need. Now, Toronal is a little less of the scary badass, though I have taken pains to show him as a badass figure. And one of the things that he likes to do is have an air of mystery. Alright? Now, it's not a spell, it's a DM effect. It's special effects. Kind of hollow projection, I guess, really. But one of the things that Tron will do is when he needs to have an important meeting, you will find yourself in darkness. Everything else kind of fades away until you are just kind of sitting or standing or whatever in a beam of light. Excuse me. Not pale light, just gentle light. There we go. So you're in a circle of gentle light, and everything else is shadow. And from that shadow will stride Toronal in very formal, very prim and proper, and he will greet you. And you are now in a meeting with Toronal. And nothing else matters. Usually you can still hear or talk to or see, you could probably hear the things that are around you in the real world, but it's kind of a dreamlike state. And sometimes you can talk to the people that are outside the shadows, but I'll just chalk that up to my own inconsistencies, because I introduced that power like a campaign ago, and I haven't used it a whole lot. But I always found it was poignant. It was important that the characters felt, and through my language I conveyed, that nothing else, absolutely nothing else, was important because Toronal is on stage. He's there, and everything else fades into shadow. And this is a pretty poignant metaphor, and I feel like it's more important because I never outright stated that, but I implied it. Just everything else is dark. You are in a meeting with Toronal. That is what you need to be focused on. And it works. Even now, as the characters are getting to higher and higher level, they still respect Toronal, which is a damn good thing, because he's still like twice as high level as they are. And by and large, they, even more importantly, they defer to Toronal. They have this feeling that this is a person worth being quiet and listening to. And that's what you really need. And that's the most difficult thing to acquire, is the genuine respect of a player who is playing a game that has no real, well, very, very little, if any, real-world consequences. I won't say that it doesn't have any real-world consequences, because I have genuinely shaped my opinion on a couple people by how they played. I still laugh about one person who actually rage quit, and we're not friends anymore. That's for damn sure. Just because, like, dude, calm your tits. But that's a story for another time, definitely. But the point is that there is nothing really stopping my players from making jokes and, poking fun while I do this, ostentatious performance. But they don't. And I think that's the most important thing. Because it's very easy, especially if it's out of character. In character, you can say that there are some consequences. You don't want to backtalk the king. It's bad. Don't do it. But out of character, you could say whatever you want. And different D&D groups will have different rules about out of character conversation. But even like between sessions, if Toronal does come up, they don't mock him. They don't make fun. They don't poke Jess. There is an air of mystery that a lot of them are intrigued by, though that's kind of disappeared as they've gotten higher level and they've learned more about him. And that's just a really neat thing. Like, I don't know. This is just something that I wanted to talk about. To hopefully any of you who are thinking about being DMs and might want, some thoughts about a mentor or patron figure. And I do think that that's important. A mentor or patron figure really does help. It is, I won't say critical, but having a mentor figure will almost always be a positive. Because if nothing else, there is a single person that the players can go to and get a quest. There's one person that the players will go to advance the story. And to that end, it doesn't need to be a powerful wizard. Even though Toronal is a powerful figure, an artificer, and Kelvin is an epic level wizard, these aren't necessary. It just matters that the characters and the players respect them in some regard. Sorry. Imagine an inner city campaign, alright, so Metropolis. You start at level 1, and your patron figure is a middle-aged dude who hangs out in the tavern, and he's like a level 3 rogue. Cool, whatever. The important part is that the characters go to him for jobs, whatever. And they continue to go to him, and he continues to be a beacon of knowledge. It doesn't have to be esoteric knowledge. It could be very simple, like, where do we go to get blank? Oh, well, don't worry, I know a guy. This works especially well in roguish campaigns, obviously, for this exact context. But you get the idea. Like, even if the characters surpass, we'll call him Tim. Alright? Tim the Rogue. Cool. As long as Tim continues to connect the players with storyline, as long as they continue to go to him for this, that, or the other, then Tim is a patron and or mentor figure. He could be their fence. He could be their connector, like I said. And that's really the important part, is as long as the players and their characters look up to a figure, it doesn't matter the actual stats. Like, I never felt the need to pull out Kelvin's stats. I looked at it once just for shits and giggles. I never have rolled Toronal's stats. I I put together his levels at one point just to get a vague idea of what he would do in a given situation. Somebody who has 7 levels in Fighter will react differently than 7 levels of Cleric. You get the idea. But this wasn't something that... oh, jeez. Sorry, I'm dehydrated. But this wasn't ever to get the idea of, well, the players might attack him, so I need to know how many hit points he has. No. A mentor figure should never have a number for hit points, I feel. As long as they are the mentor figure, their hit points are the amount of damage the party can deal plus 1. Okay? At least. Until, you need to, maybe for the sake of the storyline, sacrifice that mentor. Very Obi-Wan-esque. In which case, their hit points are whatever the party can do to save them, it would -1. And let's be honest, if you're going to sacrifice a mentor, do it in a way that the characters can't intervene in, because there's nothing more frustrating than doing everything that you could and still failing. All right? Do it in effectively a narrative cutscene. All right? Because I've been in situations where you're trying to save something and you're fighting and you're trying to save it and you're doing all you can, and the plot demands that it still dies. It's not satisfying. So have it happen on the other side of a chasm or what have you. Let the players and the characters see it, sure, but make it so that they can't realistically intervene. Just isn't as satisfying, or I should say it is very frustrating, especially at higher levels, to do everything you could and still feel like it really didn't matter, and the outcome was already decided before the dice started rolling. So that's a personal suggestion. You get the idea. Now, if you want to hear more about mentor figures and going into detail, like I said, Overly Sarcastic Productions did a trope talk on mentor figures. One other thing that I wanted to go along with is their final type of mentor is the evil mentor, either blatantly or secretly. And I personally don't like this. I don't like letting the characters be betrayed by allies or a mentor figure or what have you. I understand it has great narrative weight, but I feel like it's so overplayed, and it's just so tiring. And it has its place. If I'm playing, or if I'm going to run a Star Wars campaign, and we're in the, what's that point called? It's during the Empire, it's during the early stages of the Empire, before the rebellion really starts up. I think it's called the Dark Times. At least that's what I've heard it be referred to as. Then, maybe. But I would preface all of that, the entire campaign, by saying this is an extremely dangerous time filled with a lot of Imperial informants, Imperial sympathizers. Trust no one. or at least say trust is a very valuable commodity that is bought and sold by the Empire. You get the idea. I don't want the player characters to just be betrayed for no discernible reason. It's frustrating. It's aggravating. I believe I have played in a campaign where we were so dicked over, and it honestly made me want to quit, because there really wasn't anything that we could have done to prevent it. We didn't see it coming. There wasn't any real... And there might have been a reason behind it. I don't remember. I'll be honest. But it wasn't something that made a huge amount of narrative sense. So I didn't like it. Is what it really comes down to. And you might, your party, your players may... I would hesitate to say enjoy that, but they might be more amenable to such things. And that happens, and that's fine. And, I mean, as always, take this with a grain of sand. This is a suggestion. These are my personal thoughts and feelings, and they are now out here on YouTube for you to use as you so desire. This is just... I mean, it really is just up to you to take what I am saying, think like, okay, this is a cool idea, and from there, move on. So, with that cheerful reminder, let's see here. I am hoping to do a quick Minecraft live stream, probably in a few hours, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, dear friends, I'm Daniel Julian. Thank you once again for joining me, and farewell.